welcome to a Sonic Talk special. As you may have seen, you may indeed have been watching our Sonic Talk episode 400, which came out yesterday. Today we're doing a little live special because obviously we've just had Messe, which is one of the two largest trade shows for the music instrument industry in the world ever. And we're back with... as of now, what we did is we asked Richard Beech, our guitars editor, and also Edd Butterworth, our modular guy and social content editor, who are just here to come along and comment on the whole procedure. And they're both in a white background, so I've been making them kind of morph into one another, which is really weird when you do it fast. I'm sorry, I can't stop myself. It's just so fascinating. Anyway, Edd, I promise I won't press the button. Edd, of course, came out to Messe. This is your third Messe, right? So that's actually you're a veteran, mate.
Third Messe, yeah.
And so, how was it for you? I mean, obviously, there was a lot of modular, and you kind of covered a lot of it very heroically, I might add, because it's a difficult environment to work in, right?
Yeah, it was good. There was a lot of buzz around the whole kind of that Schneider's area, so that was really nice to see. It was nice as well because every other Messe that I've done, I've been filming guitars, so this was nice to kind of get into the parts of the show that I'm actually interested in.
Yes, that was very diplomatically said there, Edd, actually. And of course,
away from the pentatonics.
That's right. We had a lot of that. And I'm going to hold Richard Beech, who is our guitar editor, personally responsible for the 8 hours a day we had noodling through our open window in our little office in the inner bowels of the Messe building. Richard Beech, of course, you've seen him on many reviews and what have you. He's also sporting a very nice white background. I'm picturing in you some kind of like penthouse apartment somewhere high above the city of London. Tell me it's so.
No, I just left floor 22 of One Canada Square to come and do this in my relatively small apartment on the first floor in London. So, well, sadly,
it's appreciated. So of course, and Rich, you've not done a Messe for a little while. I think did you do the first one we did maybe 3 or 4 years ago or something like that?
My last one was 2011.
Right. So yeah, 4 years ago. I mean, I guess you're probably best placed because that's quite a long period of absence. What did you notice that was different? You know, just sort of coming in, apart from your own weariness and cynicism that tends to happen to us journalists over the years.
So probably the biggest things were that, for a start, from a guitarist's perspective, the guitar showing was pretty miserable. There was one room and there were very few manufacturers there, and not very many new products. And also, I thought the show just seemed a lot smaller and a lot less busy and had a lot less buzz about it, which it is a great way to start a podcast
about the show. But having said that, as we know, Fender didn't show up, which is kind of a big deal for the music, for the organisers. But in terms of what it means for us, I mean, I went to the Guitar Hall and it seemed noisy and vibrant. I mean, obviously they had a public day on Friday, which means that you kind of up the ante a little bit. But yes, it felt like there was a little bit of a plateau in the guitar side.
Yeah, I must say I was just itching by Friday to just join Edd and go around the Modular booth because it just seemed way more exciting. But there were some cool things, but there was just... I remember the last time I came, and it might have just been because I was a bit newer to the industry then and maybe a little bit more excited and probably a little bit more nervous, but everything just seemed a bit bigger and more exciting, and there seemed to be kind of more stuff. I remember Seymour Duncan came along and unveiled a limited edition guitar that they were only making 35 of. And this year, Seymour Duncan wasn't even there. So I think, that kind of says a lot about what's happened in the past few years.
Do you think that is kind of a reflection on the guitar industry at the moment anyway, in terms of there not being that much going on there in terms of innovation?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, one thing that was noted is that it was sort of like a running joke between obviously you, Edd, and Nick, and a few of the rest of us, even Rob, who's a red-blooded guitarist, that basically the people that were noodling through pentatonic scales and just kind of blasting out blues music were kind of probably the people responsible for nobody really caring about guitar that much at the moment, and a lack of young people picking up the instrument, because it is getting less popular as an instrument. And the fact that there are fewer manufacturers displaying at the biggest show in Europe for guitars is probably a symptom of that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Mentioned on the show yesterday that I felt that demonstrators as a whole, I guess it goes in cycles, because literally, we started the whole amp thing 5 or 6 years ago, and guitars were really happening, and that's why we did it, because there was so much more, and analog was slightly more plateaued then, but now it's sort of flipped over, and it's driven very much. I was talking to Andy Mack, not our Andy Mack, but Andy Mack from Akai, and it seems to be it's driven very much from what's going on in popular music, and at the moment it seems very based around electronic and dance music. Well, that's always been there, but it seems to be a greater percentage of what we're seeing in a sort of pop sense, and that tends to drive it too.
Yeah. I guess in terms of it's easier to make electronic music than it is to buy a guitar and get in a band nowadays.
That's true. It's a kind of quite a solitary process, I suppose, whereas if you've got to get a band and a rehearsal room and someone to play and a drummer, which is obviously hard to find in many ways as well, that does tend to make a difference. So these kind of social conditions are really are exacerbating that, I suppose. And in terms of the guitar side, I think also the keyboard side, there's a strata of people who are demonstrating, not everybody, who are not, again, I don't think it's them. It's just the fact that they've been in the job for a while and the musical topography has changed a bit, and perhaps what they're playing is slightly less desirable to listen to. We certainly found that a little bit. So there needs to shake up there as well, perhaps, to kind of re-energise.
I don't think it's really any sort of great secret that most guitar music and most things that people play on guitars have been done millions of times before, and running up and down pentatonic scales over a blues backing track, and playing kind of open chords as rock music. It's not very interesting, and it's not inventive. And I love guitar and I love making music with guitar, but I hate all of that stuff, and that's what guitar is associated with. It's associated with people who literally can't get past the 1970s, and that's a shame, because they are the same people who are kind of making it a little bit uncool and stopping creative people from wanting to pick up a guitar and play one on stage, because actually it is just a little bit cooler to buy a synth, which is quite often cheaper than buying a whole rig of guitar stuff, and make some music, or just buy Ableton and program some drums and do use VSTs.
Yeah, that's very true.
I think also with especially pedal demos, I don't really understand why a lot of them, they could be a lot more extreme in terms of showing you all the different aspects of the pedal and what it can do in terms of the pedal sound, rather than so I've got this I don't know, reverb, whatever, and I'm going to play some chords through it that sound nice in that. Do you see what I mean? I'd rather have that aspect of, here's the extremes of the pedal. You can make it feedback like this and do that. I think that would be a better way than demonstrating it with country guitar solo with slapback delay. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Still, one of my favorite demos of all time at a trade show was the one that the guy from Cattle and Bread, Howard, gave us of the Cattle and Bread Antichthon pedal, which is a crazy fuzz pedal, and he basically just showed us pretty much everything you can do with it, and I was sold on that. And I think we had a similar demo this year from a guy from Hughes and Ketner who was showing off a really cool amp, and that's just kind of what you want. You want somebody to show you what the gear can do, not what they can do badly.
That's true. Actually, let's have a little bit of the Hughes and Ketner, because that's I can by the magic. You might be familiar with this. This is a message from our sponsor. I think that that was very well. Let's see if we can find that. I don't remember the name of the guy because I didn't film this, but this
4x12 stack kind of sound.
This amp is pretty remarkable.
What did I play like this?
Let's get it on a bit, because this amp was ridiculous, wasn't it? Actually, there's a bit of rock and roll with slapback echo. That's not really fair on the guy because he did play some really... Christ. That's a half an hour long demo, so I'm just picking from it. But tell us a bit about the amp, because when you came back after seeing it, both you and Rob were going, "My God, that's insane!" What was it? It's like 11 channels or something.
Yeah, no, well, so it's actually really, really great. I think even the sort of more tech orientated people would be interested in it, because it's 6 channels, so 6-channel amplifier, which by itself is pretty crazy. I use a single channel amp, and there are 3 sets of power tubes, so 3 pairs of power tubes, all of which can be independently switched on or off. So it means you can basically have up to 42 combinations of various channels and power tube sort of configurations. So you could use channel 5 with a set of like EL84s, and then you can switch over to 6L6s or something like that.
Is it the Triamp? Or is it wouldn't
yeah,
it?
it's called the Triamp. So it just means that the combination of basically, if you buy this amp, then that's pretty much all you ever need, because it does everything that almost every other amp does, but just in one amplifier. And it sounds awesome. Like every channel on that amp sounds amazing. And it's probably worth the money if you've got like $2,500 to spend.
Are they expensive? I mean, I guess the thing is with those is, I mean, obviously they're large. They're designed for kind of professional guitarists, and I mean they look nice. I mean that looks a bit like the kind of Manhattan skyline right there, just kind of fit with the Plex.
Yeah,
but
it's
I mean,
great.
what
it's cheaper to find 42 amplifiers anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. What are Hughes and Ketner generally known for? Are they known for more metal, or are they known just quality kind of valve tones?
Yeah, I mean, their history wasn't in metal, it's sort of in rock, but yeah, they've become well known for metal because they do that well. But then also, like, I've got a H&K Rotosphere pedal, which is a sort of Leslie speaker emulation with a 12AX7 tube in it. So they're just like really high-end amplifier manufacturers who do cool stuff.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's interesting. Sorry, yeah, carry on.
Do you think it's a contender against the what's it called, the modelling amp?
The Kemper.
The Kemper.
Kemper, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's like the Kemper for a valve head, really.
Yeah, it's like a...
I'm pretty sure Hughes and Ketner's a German company, so it's both a German take on amplification, which in the guitar world, Germans aren't really well known for historic rock and roll tone, but like Jesus, the Kemper's amazing. It's an amazing piece of engineering, and that Hughes and Ketner amplifier is just great kind of old school tube amp, but with a modern player in mind. And yeah, it's cool. Like the Germans brought their A game this show.
Oh, interesting. Just want to say Discord. I believe Discord is discord.com. If you ever be there, he's a great guy for reviewing iOS stuff. Nice to see you here, mate. Wants to keep pestering Electron to release Overbridge. We did actually post an Overbridge video. I think I don't know if I posted a short one up to Facebook yet, but there may be one going up tomorrow. That is really interesting technology. But just coming back to the kind of synth side of things, it's funny, there's never really been much love given to amplification for synthesizers or keyboards or any of that sort of thing. I don't remember seeing anything much in that area. It's sort of an area that seems... is it just because most people just stick it through a mixer and whack some headphones on?
I guess so, yeah. I've never even considered buying an amplifier for my synthesizer. I've just got a set of monitors, and it, I just put it in a mixer or into the computer and then monitor it out of my monitors.
I guess they did. There are a few kind of keyboard wedge combo type things that you... I was thinking something like the sort of THR for synthesizers. That would be the Yamaha THR for synths. There's you can have that for free, Yamaha. That'd be pretty cool. Something along those lines with a bit of DSP in it and a bit of sort of fancy stuff.
Yeah, something like that might be. I mean, I guess it's how... Because the reason a guitarist has an amp is because they play in a band with a drummer, essentially, really, isn't it?
Well, and you can't hear your guitar unless you plug it into something, I suppose.
Yeah. So, I don't know. yeah, I don't really know how to answer that.
All right, well there you go. So in terms of stuff that, I mean, because so Richard's had a couple of goes at this. What about for you in terms of what's been going on? I mean, because you saw pretty much everything. I mean, obviously I did the Ira stuff. That was the big news of the show, and it's exciting and all of those things. And the guy from Maleko is just really, that whole world is getting an extra injection. But I mean, behind the scenes, when we spoke to Josh from Maleko, he said, well, I've actually got another load of modules I released here as well. Nobody wants to know about those because this has sort of blotted it all out. But you were best placed to see the other things that were going on. What were the highlights for you in that sense?
I mean, it's got to be the Bastel Instruments guys. That was that just kind of blew my mind. I kind of went into it thinking, oh, a new young company. They've got a mass of modules being released. It's kind of difficult. I don't even know half of. There's still things there that they released that I'm just like.
I'm looking at Bastel Desk, Bastel Trump, which sounds interesting. Bastel Sensors. Any of those?
The Sensors was really interesting.
That's right. It's all the kind of stuff that interface with
like servo
electronics and servo motors. That's right.
Yeah, that was really interesting. And the way that they set up their booth, and what was cool as well is that they were kind of separate. They were next to the or near the Schneider stuff, but it was cool that they were kind of a young company out there on their own, like doing their own thing, kind of like they had their own booth, and it was really just every time I went to that booth that there was so many people crowding around it just because it was so creative and
they got
nice to see someone doing something.
Got a lot of wood in their presentation.
Yeah,
if that doesn't sound too suggestive.
Really beautiful modules as well.
Yeah, they look really interesting. It'd be great to get some of those in for review.
Yeah, I think because a lot of the stuff that I was seeing was kind of I saw the sensors and stuff, and then we listened to the filter that they've got. So they've got this like tiny little. So it's only 6U, I think, which is small. 6U, 6 HP, which is small. And a multi-mode filter with all these different switchable resonance settings, and it just completely blew my mind. It sounded so good, and it had such a different range of sound, so it could go from like really screaming, horrendously screaming, nasty stuff to like really creamy, nice filtering.
Do you remember what that was called?
The Cinnamon.
Okay, I don't think we got that one. I think I saw a YouTube video of that.
It's got lots of that video that you were just showing.
Oh, okay. I'll see if I can find it.
I can't. I think it was the first thing that we saw, but yeah, it's quite difficult with all their stuff to kind of differentiate between which one is which, I guess.
Yes.
Because it all looks. But I think that was good to see as well. Is that they have their modules have a very strong identity because, they have their own. Yeah, that's the one. That's the filter.
Oh, well, let's see if I play that. What happens? Let's just see if it'll make a noise. Oh, it does. Look at that.
Another character switch, which I can also put both on. Skipping.
Oh, right. It sounds a bit like a Steiner Parker, that does.
Yeah, it's really like.
So,
do you have any idea of what the cost of their things are? Are they kind of putting them out at a decent price? Really?
It's such a good price. I think the filter was €109 without tax.
Wow.
Which is just like, for that amount of sound in that small HP.
That's quite.
For me, that was just like, that was really impressive.
Okay, well, we'll come back to you again. But so, Rich, in terms of, obviously we saw the Hughes and Ketner. That is a monster thing. Was there anything kind of more affordable and more sort of like, hey, that's neat that you saw that was... bear in mind, I've got a big list of videos here, so you can talk it and I'll see if I can find them while we're going on. So if there's anything else that kind of springs out... Or is that it? Was that like the whole show right there in the Hughes and Ketner?
No. I mean, there was other stuff. Something I was excited about, and I have been excited about for years, is the idea of modular pedal boards. And no one's managed to really do one yet that kind of works for me, or that I think no one's actually got one to the point of, you know, being able to actually sell it. I think they've been concept. So yeah, going into the show and seeing Greenhouse Effects do a modular grab and go pedal board was pretty cool. So it's called the Self-Titled. And
I think I will. Let me grab this here. And what I will do is I'll just. I'm sure our sponsors won't mind too much if I fast forward. I'm sure everybody's hugely familiar with the. This is Rob as well.
We have seven new products this year. The first one is the Sonic Op Fraser.
Am I looking at the right thing here, Rich?
Controls our volume, rates.
Yeah, they're new pedals, I think.
Okay, so is it this guy?
To the end and see what happens.
Is that the one there? When he gets to the middle bit with those?
Yeah.
Okay, when he gets there, here we are.
I know this is what people have been waiting to see.
Yeah. Well, last year we've launched the self-titled analog modular pedal, which is a pedal that you can replace the circuitry inside yourself and to change it. So last year we've had only 4 modules. This year we've added 4 new modules to the inventory. So we have 8 modules to choose from. On top of that, I'm about to launch the Self-Titled Deluxe, which is a mini pedal board that is modular. So let me grab one.
Oh, right, okay. Is that you doing the camera work there, Rich, by any chance? That's cute.
Inside. You unscrew the screws over here, you pop up the lid, then you can choose each 4 modules that you like, and you can pull them out just as you would on the single units. Then
neat.
What you have is...
There is actually a playing example somewhere on our website if anyone wants to hear it, but in terms of a short history of analog modular pedal boards, the company Devi Edda Effects tried, successfully built a prototype and got the schematic out there, but then I think I don't want to slander them because I'm not actually sure. It didn't work out. It didn't quite work out, and people are getting their money back on the Kickstarter. There's another company called Snapdrive who are building a similar thing to what Greenhouse Effects have done, but with a bit more control over the circuitry. What I like about Greenhouse Effects is modular pedal board is that it's sort of like a grab and go pedal board. So if you're like me and you've got a pedal board with like 15 pedals on it, and you don't really need that for every show, it's just every pedal you have on one board. If I'm playing a show that only requires like, you know, a distortion, a boost, and maybe a delay and reverb or something, then I can just grab the board, grab those cartridges, put them in the board, and then it's got like a whiteboard style surface on the top, so I can rub out whatever's been on there before, label it with the new cartridges I put in there, and that's it. Like, you know, I take that to the gig and that's my pedal board.
So are they analog or is it DSP based?
No, it's all analog. So it's cool, and I think there are a few other companies that tried, and obviously another thing that we saw that was kind of synth guitar crossover at Messe was the Pittsburgh Modular Patchblocks, which I was really excited about because it looked like pornography to me when I saw the photos. Load of patch cables sticking out of a patch box with some modules in it, and I can't wait to sort of get my hands on one and see what I can do with it with a guitar. But I think when we actually got to the show, Richard from Pittsburgh, you know, he didn't bring a guitar with him, and I think he'd had a sort of limited time with the unit and with the guitar. So I think when we got to the show, we basically borrowed a guitar from Moog in order to be able to get guitar through the Patchbox on video, and I think he was a bit surprised at like how much attention it had got online and how excited people were about it. So it's probably not the best demonstration of the Patchbox's capabilities, but I think it's something quite exciting for guitarists and you know, people who have modules who you know, interested in synths but also maybe have a guitar lying around.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, that's definitely something that came across. I mean, it's an interesting form factor, I must say. I mean, this kind of arch of white cables. It would
maybe that's just to protect your modules.
Yes, they form like a protective weave.
Yeah,
like...
yeah. I mean, you know, if I saw guitarists moaning about the patch cables, it's like, just grow up and like What do you want
could just,
instead?
I mean, if it's that much an issue, you could mount the modules up the other way.
Yeah, or if it's that much of an issue, just pipe down and don't buy it. Like, just shut up. I don't care.
Yeah.
Somebody's shouting in the chat room, "Hey guys, the Boss Slicer SL20 is my all-time favourite. It's MIDI sync capability, mind-blowing in my opinion." I don't know that. Does anyone aware of the SL20? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've played with one once, one of the Boss Slicers, and it does pretty cool things too. You can just play a chord and it'll make you sound like God.
Really? That's pretty impressive.
That sounds good.
That's the sort of thing they should probably put in their marketing literature. What does it look like?
I think going back to the whole the modular guitar pedal thing, there was Dreadbox. They had like a whole range of CVable pedals, which looked quite interesting.
I think we might have a video there. Shall we just drop that in and see what happens? Right, let's see.
He didn't have a guitar to go through it, but I think.
Okay, there we go.
The developer of Dreadbox product, and I would like to.
Did we have any? Oh, there we go.
This is a 12 dB filter.
I can't see it.
That's because I haven't switched it on. There we go. Sorry about that.
So this is the Erebus synthesizer, which actually sounded really nice. If you skip along, he shows these little pedals that are next to it.
These got Epsilon.
Distortion at the same time.
That sounds like a sort of distortion / filter by the sound, or ring mod.
Yeah, so he had like a few different ones, which were, and then they've just got like 3.5mm jack points on the
Here
top.
we have a
CV control. We have talked about this before. The Lambda.
switch between poles.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I thought it was interesting.
That Lambda is actually an old Korg polysynth.
Drive the filter very, very hard.
Interesting.
So they're basically
With an LFO.
Tough too. Sorry, I'll stop that. Go on then.
So they're basically doing what we talked about, didn't we? We talked about we kind of
We were
there
thinking
was that one.
we
pedal
wanted
that had been
pedals in Eurorack. It's interesting, isn't it? It's actually quite similar in many ways to what Coma are doing, which is that sort of desktop Eurorack format, which will then interface. So I guess you would have your modular here and your desktop type pedals there, and then patch between them in that way. And I know Moog do a similar sort of thing, don't they? I mean, do the Minifogers? You saw the Minifogers, didn't you, Rich? Did they?
Yep.
Did they, or should I say Minifogers? I'm not sure whether I should say that or not, but more on that later, perhaps. Did they have CV input, or were they purely guitar stuff?
They had expression in which would work with 0 to 5 volts.
Right.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Okay, so not quite the same as the Mogafogers, which were more CV control and you could use a particular thing. But yeah.
Dreadbox also had the best swag that I got all music Messe.
Oh, sweet. Is that a little synth?
Yeah, so it's like a little oscillator and an LFO. I just need to get a 9-volt battery, attach it to here, and then some jack points on here, and we're good to go.
There seems to be quite a lot of that going on, those kind of synths on a PCB. I know Mute did one as well, didn't they, quite recently, which is a bit bigger and has got this kind of really weird like set of dip switches that you just an array where you just put those little pin across them, and God knows what happens. It's kind of a bit of a mess, but it's kind of a noise synth, quite good fun. But speaking of
I just thought as a marketing tool to give that out to people is just, I think that's really good.
That is, very neat idea. Any good swag that you saw, Rich? I don't remember. I don't recall a single T-shirt or anything. Did you manage to pull anything off, or were they all just kind of, glumly?
See, the problem is, on the guitar side, if you ask for a T-shirt, you look like one of those 14-year-old kids who goes around trying to get signed at Messe, handing their CDs out and stuff, which is fine if you want, because I used to be one of those 14-year-old kids. But at my age, I feel like it's not very becoming to.
You asked me to get you some synth t-shirts.
Yeah, synth t-shirts. That's different because synth t-shirts are cool. But
I'm actually wearing one of my damn swags today.
Do I want a bright orange t-shirt that has orange written on it? I don't really, do I? So yeah.
Perhaps not. Well, okay, fair enough. Let me see what else have we got then. So in terms of, I mean, we've ascertained that we need a kind of new dimension of demonstration. Perhaps that might help in terms of breaking the kind of mold of the blues noodling and the super shredding. I mean, there are still some really good demonstrators, and they really do stick out when you kind of see when you go, oh man, that was awesome. The guy, I'm afraid I don't know the Hughes and Ketner guy. Did you see anybody else that really kind of made you think, oh, that's a sweet tone? I was going to ask Rich there, but he's just basically dropped off the planet.
In audio, I can hear you. Let me call back in.
Okay.
I think what I noticed was because I had been shooting the Modular guys all week, and then I went and did on the Friday. I think I did Slate, the Raven thing, the big touchscreen thing, and just the slick. The presentation was just. I think the guy, what was it, Matt something.
Yes, I saw the comments. It was very slick, wasn't it? And that almost seemed to be a crime, which is really bizarre.
Yeah, that was really weird because if you're a Modular guy who doesn't have very good English and you spend all your time in a workshop making modules, to then have to come in to a trade show and talk about this thing and be excited and be a salesperson, because you don't have that kind of ability. Whereas this guy from Slate, he just like. I didn't have to do anything. I just turned up and he was just like, there was no struggle at all. It was just like, yeah, I'm going to show you this, bang. And he was just like away and doing his thing. And it was quite fun. I was smiling the whole time I was watching it because this is so entertaining. Someone who knows exactly what they're going to do next. It was all rehearsed, which it
has its plus and minus points, I suppose. Rich, you were just about to come in there before you went, and I've seamlessly brought you back to life. Although I switched the audio.
What was I going to say though? Remind me.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think we were talking about any demo people that sort of stood out and kind of made it sort of really me think, ooh.
No.
No,
I'm kidding. As always, Tor from TC Electronic.
Oh yes.
I mean, I'm slightly biased because I have a huge man crush on him, but he was cool. And also, which is really weird, when you're interviewing him, he does not stop staring at your eyes for the whole time. So he's got these these Danish Viking blue eyes, and he just won't stop staring at you the entire time that you're interviewing him. So I was having to look down at the floor bashfully, and it was just embarrassing, really.
It is. I can see there's a definite connection there, and these are the new. This is Ditto Stereo.
Ditto Stereo, which is awesome, and I can talk about it after Tor's done some playing or something.
Let's see if we've got any playing going on here. I'm not sure.
And I can stop it because it really was not that good, but you get the idea anyway. This is actually I find out.
Even by his own high standards, he was. Let me see. Perhaps a bit too close to lunch, but yeah, even his guitar looks cool and his tattoo.
Yeah. He. I actually remember that playing being quite good, to be fair. But
and he outbearded you as well, Rich.
Yeah, he's been totally outbearded.
He did but I shaved my beard before Messe. He's the Ditto Stereo. I think TC Electronic are a really great example of a company who actually listen to what people want, and there's a real lack of that, I think, especially in the guitar industry at the moment. And the first thing they came out with was the Ditto Looper, a really basic looper pedal, pretty much for home practice, which went down really well. And people said they wanted a more complicated one, so they did the Ditto x2, which had a lot more functionality and was a bit more like the Boss looper pedals. And then they listened to their fans even more, and they did the Ditto Stereo. And there are some really cool functions on here, and my favorite one is the fact that you can now export your loops as a WAV file, and you can import backing tracks as well. And what they've done is got people like Paul Gilbert, who's a great guitarist, to like do rhythm tracks for them, which you can beam into your pedal. So you can have like Paul Gilbert as your backing guitarist and stuff, which would make me feel ashamed of my own playing. But that was good. And there are various other bits of functionality that just show why TC Electronic are really on top of their game at the moment. And I don't know how much they sell in comparison to other companies. I don't have that sort of information. But if you just go on Facebook and look at the sort of usual suspect pedal companies, TC Electronic have like 200,000 followers, whereas some of the other big companies are down at like 10,000, 20,000.
They're all just tour fans.
It might be that, yeah, but no, they're just really cool. Like they're a very transparent company, and they've got good forums on their website where you can actually get involved and have a say in how the product is going to go. And there's so many huge companies that not naming any names, just don't do that and almost have a sort of disregard for the people that are actually going to be giving them money, which is a really weird way to run a business, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? In this sort of new age of social media and online kind of consultation, it makes kind of sense. It's funny, isn't it? Because there was this whole sort of bump of online collaborative design. Remember, because Rob Chapman was very involved in that kind of stuff with helping people to kind of voice what they would like to see in a guitar and actually getting things made. And that sort of all went away again. Maybe as an experiment, it was too hard to manage. Designed by committee is always difficult, right?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because Rob Chapman literally has just updated his Facebook page saying that the design for his new pedal is complete, and it was exactly what his fans asked for. It was collaborative design, but the price point is too expensive. So that's an example of collaborative design gone slightly wrong. So he's asked people what they would get rid of in terms of expensive components. So, can they get rid of the fancy kind of high-grade knobs and just get some plastic ones or whatever. It's interesting, but he's still doing it, and it'll be interesting to see what those pedals are like. But I don't know. I don't know much about them. I imagine probably some distortion pedals that sound like distortion.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. I know, Ed, is there any other sort of highlights for you in the show? Because I'm just curious to know whether there's anything perhaps we missed that went a bit under the radar.
The Make Noise Telharmonic, we saw that at NAMM, but he's done some updates to it, and to me that's a really exciting module. All of kind of the Make Noise stuff, and I've got my first Make Noise module now, so I think I'm kind of sold on that one.
I'm just looking for... I can't find the file for that. That's one that maybe didn't make it through. That's annoying, unless it's called something else. But yes, because we had Mark Doty on the show yesterday, and he said that he was really impressed with that as well. So I must check that out.
Yeah, it kind of just seems like a really nice thing to have there in your rack as a sound source that could do a lot more than just be a sound source. The other one that was fun, which isn't a new module, which is the Sound Machine's Brain to Face, which is like a module that outputs CV based on your brainwaves. So you have a little headset, put that on, and then you get outputted CV depending on these different outputs. So you have outputs for like concentration and stuff. So if you're concentrating to read on so you start reading something, the concentration that it takes to read that will make the CV go up. And then there's another one for like facial movement. So in the video he's talking about it, and then he starts like moving his face and he's got it just controlling something in the modular. I just thought it was so immediate.
Did it sound musical though?
Well, that's down to the patch, isn't it? I suppose, and how you interpret it. But yes, that's a very good question to ask, though.
I think what was interesting was he was saying that he gets a lot of people buying it for kind of arty dance things and stuff like that. So they'll wear the headpiece and then control X, Y, Z with it. But another one that he said was really interesting. He knows he's got a mix engineer or an engineer in a studio who will automate parameters via his brainwaves when he's listening back to his tracks. So listen back to his tracks, have those CVs going to something, whatever, and then that will modulate during his
listening process.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting.
That does sound kind of like that. I mean, all of this whole world. I mean, the notion of CV. I mean, I guess it's in the same way that we saw a massive upsurge of things to MIDI and MIDI to things. It's the same way with CV as well. And those are the sort of. I mean, that one thing that is worth mentioning, and I think this got a pretty bad rep. Perhaps again down to the demo, was the Boss SY300. No, Gaz mentioned it and was really impressed with the technology. I mean, the whole fact that they can actually polyphonically detect pitch over just the jack wire. There's no extra stuff there. I mean, and I think perhaps the demo that we got didn't do it justice, because we heard it playing polyphonically and it was noted, and I think maybe it just didn't come across as that much of a feature of that main demo. But that was quite that was Alex Hutchins, wasn't it, who was sort of playing, who's not really a synthesist, which is perhaps wasn't so such a what they should have put it in the hands of a synthesist perhaps to see what it could do.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, look, Alex is a great guitarist, really
fantastic.
And very individual in terms of what he does. But yeah, he admits in the demo that he's not a gearhead, and that's fine. But I actually think that they wouldn't get somebody like that to demo the product unless they were sort of aiming the product at people who aren't aren't synthesizers. I just don't know why. Like even myself, I've got a 200 quid analog synth, and I'd much rather have 2 of those than buy a pedal that made my guitar sound like a synth, because it's a totally different experience, and I don't.
It's not an analog.
Does it output MIDI then?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Because if it outputs MIDI, then that's quite interesting, because then you can just MIDI it up to all your existing gear. But if you can only use the sounds that it has on board. And from the video, to my ears anyway, I was not particularly impressed with. Maybe it was the playing, but
the sounds, the patches weren't great, and actually no, that's unfair. I think they probably are. They sound like things that have been created by guitarists, as what guitarists think synths sound like. But when if I'd have been given that task a year ago before I'd really got interested in synths at all, I probably would have done the same thing. Whereas now I would, if I was given that task, I would not create those particular sounds that are loaded in there. But obviously, you can tweak stuff. But even just kind of playing with the oscillators and stuff like that, and playing with the knobs on the actual pedal, it's just not that same.
It's not the same thing, is it? No.
It's not the same feeling as having a synth and having all that control there, and often not even having to hold down a note on the keyboard. Like playing guitar, you need 2 hands, and the most control you have on that pedal is the fact that you can plug 2 expression pedals into it. And even then, if you're standing up at a gig, what are you going to seesaw up and down on each pedal?
I don't understand who I don't really get who it's aimed at, because
the same. It seems quite a lot like somebody in Japan came up with the idea that they wanted to make a guitar synthesizer that could run on a jack rather than a hex pickup, and so they did it, and it cost, because of the amount of time and research that went into it, it cost 550 quid or whatever it is, and then people like me who might have been interested in it go, well, actually I can actually buy a pretty synth for that.
I guess the thing is, it's it's going to be somebody who can play really well, wants to maybe take their sound palette somewhere else and play those things. Maybe that's who it's for. But yeah, I suspect the reason it's so expensive is because the DSP required to do that kind of polyphonic tracking on an audio signal is fairly hefty. So the chip itself is probably the thing that's bumping the cost off, and also having a synth engine that does those things. I mean, I don't know whether it's a supernatural synth engine. I didn't quite catch that, but I wouldn't imagine they'd have created something completely separate just for that one thing. So I don't know.
No, and the coolest thing I thought was the sequencer, and then if I compare the sound of the sequencer to just a sequencer on any kind of relatively low budget synth, then yeah, it didn't. I would much prefer to have something that wasn't a guitar being plugged into a pedal which does some DSP that makes something sound like a sequencer when you can actually just have a sequencer.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Well, it feels like it's not. I mean, there's stuff in there. I mean, we've just got to find it, and we have found some things. And I think as ever, if you want to check out all of our Sonic State Music Messe, I think I created a Bitly URL, which is bit.ly/Sonic Messe 15, and that'll take you there. So do check that out. And so I want to say thank you very much, everybody. Unless there's anything else that you feel you have to get in before we go, I can do the wrap. And
people are talking about the Pittsburgh game system.
Ah, right, okay.
That was quite interesting.
Let me see.
That was like a
Pittsburgh game.
It was basically like a little game that you can play on your modular. So it has like I think it was like 64 by 64 kind of or a 64 grid, and you can and you basically play a little game, and when you hit you have a little spaceship, you move the spaceship around, and when you hit certain things, it outputs gates in. So it's basically like an algorithmic gate sequencer, I guess.
Okay. That's sort of interesting. I must admit, that's probably not. It's interesting, but it's sort of like just because you can doesn't mean you should. It's one of those sort of things.
Maybe.
But yeah, interesting. And that's what it is. Did you get a price on that? Roughly what it was going to be out at?
I think it was $299 US.
Oh right, okay. So it's not terribly expensive for that little bank of LEDs, but
maybe three. Maybe three.
Yeah, I was just going to say, actually, I don't know if it has. I don't think it has been mentioned, but Patchblocks, I just really liked from the point of view of somebody who can, just likes to be able to mess around with,
Yes, we did have something on there, but I'm just trying to find the video. I can't see that anywhere.
And they sounded great as well. Like,
they sound awesome, and they're really fun. They're actually quite musical. Just having two knobs that you like. You have to use them to do something musical. Actually forces you to be pretty creative as well.
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't think would be the case.
No, I suppose not. But yes, I think there's going to be a lot more coming from them because they've got their sort of home programming environment and the way that works. But anyway, I mean, it's great to have another couple of perspectives on the whole show that wasn't purely focused, because Roland really did sort of sweep in and just kind of steal the show just purely because of their being associated with the energy of the Schneider's booth, and also the fact that they've entered the Europe. But I mean, if you want to see more on that, we talk about it quite great length at Sonic Talk 400, which is yesterday's episode. Which, incidentally, if you were to listen to all 400 episodes, I think I worked it out it'd be about 16 days straight with no sleep. So so I don't know if anyone ever took that challenge. I'm not sure. You probably end up hating me and probably want to kill all the guests because you'd have just lost your mind. It's not a good idea anyway. But I want to say, really, I mean, none of this would have really been possible without all of our sponsors: Universal Audio, Loop Masters, Plugin Boutique, Cakewalk, Klavier, Boss UK, TC Electronic, Isotope, Ableton, Tip Top Audio, Nectar, Tascam, and Audio Technica as well. In fact, there's our new audio recorders and our new wireless mics, which did make quite a lot of difference, I think, and I hope we'll be able to use them effectively in time to come. But want to just say thank you very much, and also I want to say thank you to Edd for coming along and doing such a great job. If you were excited by all the analog modular stuff, you can thank Edd personally, because he basically filmed pretty much all of it, and he's got the scars.
There were points where I thought, I really want to get the hell out of. I don't want to listen to another module. I want to hear some pentatonic scales. But as soon as I got back to the
Edd, you seem to have scored in the chat room as well. Are you available? Says Sonic9414. And yes, I'm female and straight. There you go. So obviously there should be no. Well, there you go. I could have told you that, but I just thought you should see that. But thank you, Edd. And that was definitely obviously, without the team, it would have been impossible to cover quite so much stuff. So excellent work. And also for you, Rich, thank you. I know it was perhaps a bit harder excavating the facts and figures and interesting stuff out of the show, but always good to have you along.
Thank you. It's good to come along as well. And I think, probably this time next year, I'll be following Edd around the modular pit. Maybe, but I must say, the guitar stuff at NAMM was amazing, so I'm not too disappointed about guitar stuff at Messe not being great.
Excellent. Well, and next year, of course, the Music Messe will be changing up a little bit. They're shifting around the halls and stuff, so we're yet to see what that's going to mean. And they're going to let the public in the whole time, which would be quite interesting from a journalistic point of view.
Can't wait for that to happen. Yay!
Yeah, well, it's one of those things, isn't it? You sort of think half of it is like, well, that's great because then the people who are exhibiting will, get to see the most people. But covering it from a journalist point of view, it's a nightmare because
surely they can do one day without the public in there, can't they?
Yeah, I think need a bit more than that, but yes, it would be. I hope so, but it doesn't look like.
This is probably really boring to everyone else, but I actually think they're making Hall 8 a public hall, and you have to pay more money to be in there or something like that. I don't know how it works.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I can't wait. Maybe that'll be what they'll do. Is everybody will have to have split booths because the move. If you walk from where we were to Hall 8, it's about half a mile. And that doesn't sound much, but if you're doing that all day, many times, you can imagine what that... I don't know if anyone saw the... we did on our live blogs, and I posted a shot of Rob's pedometer, which was on the first day, where we didn't really do that much, and he walked 7 miles. So that was just in the show hall. So, yeah, it does kind of add up. Anyway, well, that's it for another show. Thank you very much for watching this special. That was our Messe kind of wrap-up with our editors, Ed and Rich. So that's it for now, and we'll see you later. See you guys.
See ya.
Cheers.